Welcome, broadcasting to the entirety of the Super Smash Brothers community. This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host, Peon, this week live from the Himalayas. I'm joined, as always, one of our co-hosts, Abhi. Abhi, how's it going, big boy?
Did you just say the Himalayans?
Yeah, I meant to say the Himalayas, right? Like the mountain range. But a Himalayan implies like someone from that region, right?
So we're just like chilling with some people at the monastery, just kind of meditating. Peon's getting a master class on introspection right now. So.
Damn it. You know what, Abhi? That's one of those things you just got to roll with. I'm happy we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been good. But look, man, I hope you guys have all had a happy Halloween. We do know this episode's coming out a bit late. But here it is. You know, Abhi and I had our fill on the candy, and now we're ready to deliver once again. Abhi, we have a very special guest today, Toph. And, you know, as Toph hops on, we're going to talk to him about crossing the chasm between Melee and Ultimate. We're going to go through his specific journey doing just that, and also kind of just talk about Melee. And, you know, Toph, being the historian that he is, will be able to kind of pick his brain a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of really cool things to say. He has his memory and his ability to construct the narrative of the game and to talk about both Ultimate and Melee very intelligently and with context is beautiful. And I think he presented that very, very clearly today.
Yeah, it'll be a fun listen for sure. I really hope that you guys listen to the whole thing, because it's honestly just, I love hearing Toph talk. I mean, that's kind of how he's, you know, built his kind of career in terms of Smash. You know, he's just a great person to listen to, and this episode will be no exception. Before we get into that, though, Abhi, I do want to plug our Patreon and Discord real quick. Our Discord server is home of the nicest, most introspectively minded, improvement-oriented Smashers out there. Melee, Smash Ultimate, you name it. Go join the Discord, make some friends, and play some matches. Talk to Abhi and I. And consider supporting us on Patreon. This show does not come without its costs, specifically when your co-host is a skeeving, conniving, money laundering bitch ass. Abhi, I'm talking about you, who's lost me more than I care to admit. So please consider supporting us on Patreon. But Abhi, without further ado, our interview with Toph in just 1 second. Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, Abhi and I are joined by Toph.
Hey.
Toph is welcome, Toph. He is the host of The Reads, which is known as one of the most beloved shows in all of Smash. He is a Melee and Ultimate commentator known for his effortless style on the mic, and a distinguished competitor in his own right. Many-time ranked player in the NorCal Melee community, and lesser-known fact is actually an EVO finalist in a game called Catherine. Toph, thank you for being here, buddy.
Absolutely, good to join you guys.
It is kind of weird. I mean, even just mentioning, you know, your pedigree, I guess, all the things that you've done. I think that there's this phenomenon sometimes in Smash specifically when someone's a commentator, they're kind of put in a box like, okay, yeah, he's a commentator.
Yeah.
How do you identify it, though?
I try not to think about it too much. You start to think about it too much, I feel like it starts affecting you. I think like a lot of people who resign themselves to being more commentators, like you almost let it become like a John, you know, you're kind of like, oh, like if I enter a tournament, it's okay if I do poorly. I try not to think about it too much because I don't want to let that stuff affect me.
Yeah, it's totally fair. I mean, I don't know. I guess it is almost like when you have multiple roles, right? Maybe like there's some part of you that can feel less responsible for each individual role.
Yeah,
like, you know,
exactly.
Maybe I was a little bad on the mic today, but you know, I actually did pretty well in bracket, or like, you know,
vice versa.
Something
right. It's yeah. You don't want to let it. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to like spread your responsibility to the point. You ought to be equally responsible for everything, but that doesn't mean you should take less responsibility in each of the things you're doing.
Do you think that phenomenon like makes you a better commentator, or do you think that you have like spread yourself too thin? In terms of like, is it hard to bring your A game in all aspects always?
It is hard unless you're cognizant that it's something you need to work on. I think I've gotten better at it over the years. I don't think I was good at it at first.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, do you think in totality, looking back, if you had never started commentating, would you be a better or worse Melee player?
Ooh, that's such a good question. That is a good question. I don't know. Yeah, like it's easy for me to say that I would have peaked higher, but at the same time, being a commentator gave me a lot of opportunities, like to travel, for example, that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So who's to say? It's also possible that if I didn't become a commentator, I would have like stopped going to events sooner or something. Like whereas I still go to a ton of events because I have the opportunity to. So it's I don't know.
If you go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I mean, that's really interesting because like, I mean, there's so many like random trade offs that you make when you're a player and when you're a commentator. I mean, or when you're doing really anything that's sort of tangential to just the playing role. Because like when I was a TO, it's interesting because I was a TO. For some reason, I had this like the pressure was taken off. I didn't feel as pressure to do really well in bracket. So sometimes I would perform even better in bracket
Mm,
because I had that underdog or like no pressure effect. Have you ever felt that?
No, I know exactly what you mean. That's a thing for sure. And I've observed that in other people too. Like yeah, just the fact that you almost have something to fall back on, you don't feel like you're yeah, it can definitely take the pressure off because you feel like your weekend's not going to be over. Like you're like, okay, well, even if
Yeah.
I lose, like I'm going to go, do I have stuff to do, so I don't have time to be getting nervous now, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like when I remember when Lovage beat Leffen a while
Yes,
back, and
yeah,
that was like such a big because if you're Leffen, it's a lose lose situation. Either you
it's
beat a
lose lose,
commentator
right?
or you get beat by a commentator. And Lovage is a fantastic player, but when you diversify, I guess, kind of your identity in a
Yeah,
way, it changes the way you're perceived. And
totally.
but going into another one of your identities, you as a content creator,
Mm,
like I mentioned, you do help produce the reads. You're one of the
yep,
hosts,
yep.
and what I enjoy about it is just how like gameplay oriented it is. You kind of capture both the success and failures of competitive melee,
Yeah,
and at the same time you reveal like the personalities of your guests and of yourself and of Scar.
yeah.
But going in, making that show as often as you guys do, how do you continually reignite your passion for competitive melee itself? And what
Well,
about the show do you attribute to its success?
yeah. Well, the show is easy from the point of view that we only record really once a month or so. Like we'll get together, right? And we'll do the show. We'll find like a weekend usually or whatever, and we like record for like a couple hours, and then we edit it up, and then we release like once a week or whatever. And because we are only filming once a month, we're always very energized whenever we get together. It's like it's like a thing. It's kind of fun, We get together, we get some snacks, whatever. And so it's pretty easy, I think, to be like energized or whatever for the show when we do our normal recording schedule. Um, because it's not like streaming. Streaming is like kind of a grind, right? Streaming, you have to do it every. If you want to be a big streamer, you got to do it every day. If you take any days off, you're losing subs or whatever. With at least
Yeah.
the content we make, we're kind of blessed because we get to just do it. I mean, obviously Scar. I mean, he's got a kid. He's a very busy man, so like it works really well, especially with his schedule, that we only have to get together every so often. And to be honest, we do want to do more. Like if like we are thinking about ways that we can even try to be even better with time management and produce even more content. So hopefully you'll see some of that soon. But yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
going off of that, like do you think there's like one element about the show? Because like the actual premise of the show is pretty simple. It just
Hmm.
you and your buddy Scar, and you have such a great dynamic. So I think that kind of at worst, you guys have your banter, which is funny.
Yeah.
But is there like one thing about the show that you guys realize, like, hey, we have something here, like, hey, this is worth
Right.
creating?
Honestly, I think what it is like, okay, for me, I think people really like watching Bob. Okay, so I still go to tournaments and I enter tournaments, but I think for Bobby, like Bobby doesn't really enter anything anymore, right? I think uh Bobby, people really like Bobby. Like he's such an electrifying personality, right? And
Yeah.
I think getting to see him play, I think people like to see that because there's a bit of like an aura about him. And I also think, I mean, I think you're right. I think a lot of people kind of just come for the banter because, like, I think the best episodes are the ones where we just kind of talk about random shit. And that was what, when we were focusing more on the Scar and Toph show, which was our stream show, it was more of a talk show. That's kind of what people like that's the reason people watch that was they just like to listen to us talk about random stuff. So I think that's kind of what people come back for. Because if you look at the YouTube comments, like people always like the things people remark on more are like people just like, wow, the random shit they were talking about at this timestamp was hella funnier. You know, it's like more shit like that, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, in interviews in the past, you've talked about how like the most important things in terms of like being a commentator or content creation is like credibility. It's like just having your name known and people being like, okay, yeah, we recognize we can trust this person. It's like when you think about it, does it ever feel like sometimes feel like a cop out in the sense of like you're just kind of riding on that credibility, or do you ever feel like kind of pushed to like maybe push the envelope a bit in terms of the
yeah,
content that you're
yeah,
creating?
yeah. Good question. I mean, I don't necessarily think that I don't feel pressured by it. I think that I'm pretty yeah, I don't feel like I need to prove myself anymore in terms of like credibility or anything that, but I do. Me and Bobby both, maybe me especially. I do feel like I would like to push the envelope more. I mean, I feel like we've kind of settled into this rhythm where we've been doing the reads for like at least 2 years now, and then we've been doing the Scar and Toe show for 2 or 3 more years on top of that. So we've been doing our shows for like 5 years, and we don't really switch up the style very often. But like okay, so the thing is we're trying to sort of we have like a Patreon, right? And like for me, I just want to make sure that if people are subscribing on the Patreon, I want to make sure that people feel like they're getting their money's worth. So that's actually the main thing that I think about is like, okay, how do I make people feel like they're actually getting some bang for their buck? It's less about my own credibility and more about the other thing you said, like pushing the envelope. I feel like I never want to get like I never want to rest on my laurels.
Right. Well, I think if
Yeah.
you've pinned down like the secret to your success is just the banter between you and Scar,
Right.
look, man. I think at risk of wasting your Patreons or your patrons' money, I think you guys should just get weird with like see what the breaking point is. Like, would people
Yeah.
watch like a Scar and Toph like pudding show or like I don't know, dude. Like,
Yeah.
look, how far does this go?
That's what I actually wanted to. Yeah, that's what I wanted to experiment with. Was actually like us doing other like non-Smash related content. Yeah, dude, like literally like a baking show or something, or like
Yeah, I don't know why
you
I said
know,
pudding. I don't think I've eaten pudding in like 7 years, but
I'm down.
Dude,
maybe you'll
I
bring
would,
pudding
When
yeah.
back.
we're all retired and we don't have working teeth anymore.
I don't know.
Tapioca with Scar and
Yeah.
Toph.
I don't know
Yeah.
if we've either of you watched the Great British Baking Show, but I would absolutely like watch a recreation of that with you two as the hosts.
Yeah. Okay. Well, duly noted. Duly noted.
um,
We've
moving on.
experimented actually. We've experimented with some non like purely non Smash stuff. We never ended up releasing it. We only showed it to patrons. But I
Yeah,
want to bring it back. I don't want to spoil anything. Is the thing. Um,
sure.
but okay, from my perspective, like the way I'm looking at it is, uh, I just need to like Bobby is kind of too busy to like really drive stuff. But if I drive things, he'll do it. Like if I say, "Hey, we're doing this," Bobby will do it. Um, so I just need to find time to like kind of I have to like project manage it in a way. I have to think like, okay, this is what we're doing and this is how we're gonna do it. And if I put the pieces together, Bobby will act. So I can make it happen for sure. I just need to know what I'm doing.
Well, hey, look, you have our support. I'll tell you that much, Toph. We'll watch it.
Thank you.
We'll give it a thumbs up. But Toph, like going beyond you as a content creator, I think like at the core of it, you
Yeah.
know, you're a competitor. You're out there. You're
Uh huh.
playing Smash Ultimate. You're still entering tournaments. You've still
Yeah.
fostered that appreciation for the
Hmm.
sport. And right now, you're going through what a lot of people I think are doing, and you're a melee player who's giving Ultimate an honest try.
Yeah.
You've put your hat in the ring, and so have many of your melee compatriots.
Yeah.
Armada, Leffen, Mewtwo King, and Wizrobe to a lesser extent. Um, you know those guys are all going to town. So how would you kind of characterize this transition? Like, what is making Leffen and Armada and those guys successful, and what have you learned along the way as well?
What is your question? Is what is making them successful?
Yeah,
I think, yeah. So I mean, if you want to look at it in terms of like what do melee players have going in Ultimate that Smash 4 players don't, and vice versa, I think, well, obviously Smash 4 players Ultimate's way closer to Smash 4, right? Gameplay wise. And I think that, like, the reason you're seeing, obviously, like, Leo and Tweak and players like that, Samsora on top of the meta is, that Ultimate is obviously closer in terms of Smash 4. There are a lot of, like, mechanics that you don't, that just don't work the same way in Melee than the newer Smash games. Like, a common example that people throw out is like ledge trapping and just how the ledge works. Obviously, in Ultimate, there's ledge snap, there's two framing. That's very similar to Smash 4 in terms of, like, techniques, right? There's no ledge cancel, or yeah, there's no edge canceling like off platforms the same way there is in Melee. It's a less movement heavy game. It's a less hit stun heavy game, and so you have to be a little bit more practiced with your, not practice, but you have to be more rigorous with how you do your combos, because in Melee, you can kind of freestyle. In Ultimate, you really can't. Like, Hitstun's not long enough to freestyle, but on the plus side, there's less DI. So, if you have your stuff down, you can hit it every time. And so Smash 4 players are more used to the engine. But Melee players, I think, are um I think we have a couple advantages as well. Like, I hear from Ultimate players a lot, for example, that Melee players off stage comes more naturally to us. Is what I've heard. Like, Melee players are or less afraid to edge guard. That's one thing I hear. And I think in a more macro sense, I think Melee players are probably better than the average Ultimate player at labbing.
Mm,
I think we hand wave less stuff away. I think Melee players are more inclined to, like, really dig into, like, okay, why is this the way it is? When I watch, like, for example, Rishi's content, like, Rishi makes some Ultimate content explaining, like, certain phenomena or, like, certain techniques or whatever. So Rishi has a very methodical. I'll give you another example. I was at Ultimate Summit. I'm not going to name any names, but a bunch of, so there's, like, this hardware device. I mean, it's an Arduino, and obviously Ultimate doesn't have a training hack the way Melee does with 20XX. But
right.
Ultimate does have this hardware mod, which is basically an Arduino that lets you simulate comboing an opponent that's actually DIing like a human might. And from what I could tell from this conversation, a lot of the Ultimate players in the room, like the top players, like, they had access to this Arduino, but they didn't know how to use it to practice. And if you give it, they were like, yeah, 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 like, this guy, like, sent me this thing. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with it. Like, it's just kind of been collecting dust. I'm kind of like, dude, if you gave, an Arduino that could, like, simulate DI to a Melee player that was trying to get good at Ultimate, they would find such good use out of it. I think Melee players are way better at practicing.
Yeah.
Um, it is a bit of a meme with Leffen's whole, like, Ultimate players don't grind. But I do feel, and they don't need to right now. If you compare Ultimate players to Melee players, of course, or Smash 4 players to Melee players, of course they're ahead of the pack. But I do think Melee players, from what I've seen, are improving at a faster rate than anyone else.
It's weird because I don't know how to characterize it. I don't know how to psychologically characterize it, but I totally feel that because I mean Peon and I, while definitely not competitive on the same level in Melee, we both truly enjoy the game. I've been playing
Yeah.
a ton of Melee recently, and for some reason, every time I play Melee, I can only play one character. I only care about getting better with Marth. I don't care about playing
Hmm.
any other character. I'm so focused. I'm so hyper focused on improving with
Mm.
like just one character and like nailing everything down. But when I go back to
Hmm.
Ultimate, I'm like always messing around with different characters. There's this
Mm.
like psychological shift, and I have no clue what it is. I was wondering if you've like ever experienced this, or you have like any way to pin down this effect
Yeah,
between going
yeah.
between both games.
No, totally. It's definitely a thing. I mean, well, there's a couple factors. One, Ultimate has more characters. That's just the case, and more
Mm,
viable characters. The
Right.
thing is, though,
Yeah.
in Melee, and I think the reason Melee's like, the reason it's interesting, even though, you look at the roster, like, oh, there's only 12 viable characters. But the thing is, like, there are also a lot more ways to play a given character. Like, in Melee, you can uh how do I put this? Like, you can look at Fox players, like, that are, like, over the past couple of years. You can take, say, every Fox player that's been ranked in the top 20 or the top 30, and it's like, it's pretty easy to identify them. Like, you can watch. I played Leffen in a net play friendly without even knowing he was in the U.S. And, like, within one friendly, I was like, this is Leffen. And I was right. I was right. He was in SoCal for Gods and Gatekeepers, or Gods and Gatekeepers, yeah. And I
yeah.
was like, this is Leffen, and I was right. And, like, I don't know that. Well, yeah. Point being, like, there's a lot of nuance that, so even though you're playing, like, the same character, there's a lot of things to explore. And I feel like the diversity in Melee comes from, like, the different ways to play a character, versus in Ultimate, there's a ton of diversity just from the character roster. And so obviously there are different ways to play a character in Ultimate too, but I think it's like more pronounced in Melee. It has to be more pronounced or Melee would die. Like if there
Right.
weren't, if like Melee just doesn't have enough characters to where if there was only one way to play a character, like it would just be so boring. But because there's so many ways to play a character, it like works out that it like gets to it continues to be fun for many years.
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of the thing. Like when it comes to Ultimate, a lot of the characters, of course, are homogenized. Like if you have stuff like universal jab locks and the universal jump squat and things that kind of make characters feel pretty samey. And like you said, Toph, when it comes to like the combo DI and the hit stun, how Melee is this ever evolving kind of freestyle based game. But
Hmm.
Ultimate, you kind of learn the procedure and then you rinse and repeat. You kind of learn the inputs. There's not going to be much variance. But when it comes to like, picking up like Abhi was saying on Marth and Melee, there's so many
Yeah.
different DI scenarios versus different matchups and different where it's like you really feel like you can never master the punish game. You can only improve at it. You
Yeah, it
know?
really does feel that way. And like even when you get really good at it, you like find ways to like take it in a new direction. Like if you I mean, like the obvious example is like, okay, look at the top Captain Falcons. I mean, if you look at Wizzy and you look at Nun and S2J, like it's just that Nun and Wizzy are the two most glaringly different. They're so different, and yet it both work. They both work. They both work at a really high level, but they're so different, right? They're like
Yeah.
you. It's not watching Nun is not like watching Wizzy. They're
Yeah.
so different, and I don't think that drastic difference could exist in most other games between like players of the same character. It's just like so night and day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, with Ultimate, I think with Ultimate, a lot of the diversity and the variety in like that sort of thing comes from like when you watch a great player. The thing is in Ultimate, like yeah, you have your like little bread and butter strings that like obviously the DI isn't as impactful as Melee, so the combos do look similar. But I think when it gets really cool is like watching people like maintain advantage state for a long time. So
Mm.
like yeah, okay, like your combos are mostly gonna look the same, but like what you do between the combos I think can vary quite a bit. Like I realized this watching Gluttony. Actually, I think Gluttony is like incredible at this. um I was commentating a Gluttony set at main stage, and he just destroyed Cantrip, who's actually a good Diddy Kong player,
Hmm.
who actually has a very funny Twitter. You should follow him. But anyways, yeah, he got like double three stocked, and like yeah, okay, Gluttony's doing standard Wario combos, but like what he's doing in between them to like reset, like kind of reset the combo and like maintain his advantage state or whatever is like, I mean, it was like he was doing some like otherworldly reads. So I think in Ultimate, the variety in terms of offense comes more from between the combos, whereas
Yeah.
in Melee, the combo itself has a lot of like because DI is so impactful. There's a lot of freedom of what do I do next, even within the context of the combo.
Right.
You don't have to let them out of the combo in Melee if you're sharp enough. And in Ultimate, you're usually going to chase down. You're going to bait them into an air dodge or something. You're gonna bait them in a certain way or bait them to press a button. And yeah, I mean, it's just different strokes. Like Ultimate is more similar to like, I mean, if you want to put it that way, it's like Melee is more like Marvel, and then Ultimate's more like Street Fighter. But obviously, they're both good games.
Right. And like, I mean, going, looking at the differences between the games, like, I like how you kind of evaluated Smash Ultimate as more of an advantage state game rather than a combo based game. I think that's a really succinct way to put it. But
Yeah.
how then do melee players such as M2K, Wizrobe, and Leffen cross over so well between these kind of games? Is there something inherent about their play styles that is adaptive to different sort of fundamental gameplay
They're
systems?
the three players you named are really different. Do you want me to talk about each individual player and what I think they're doing?
Well, I guess
So
that's part. Yeah, sure.
yeah, okay. So I think Wizzy. Well, Wizzy plays a ton of Smash games. Wizzy plays every Smash game pretty differently too, because he plays Yoshi in 64. He played Sheik in Smash 4. He's playing Wolf now. I think Wolf is the most similar to Sheik. Like Ultimate Wolf is the most similar to Smash 4 Sheik, and I think Wizzy's what makes Wizzy strong is Wizzy's very good at identifying like, okay, wait a minute, like what are the things I can do to lock down the most options of my opponent. And I noticed this. I was playing in a bunch of friendlies at Ultimate Summit, and his ledge trapping is like stellar, where he is like, I mean, you could probably guess from watching his Melee gameplay, but Wizzy's ledge trapping is reaction based and really, really sharp. And
Yeah.
most, like, even though you can describe the flowchart to most people, even most top players won't really do the flowchart. Wizzy actually does the flowchart. And so Wizzy's good at identifying flowcharts, and like so any game he goes to, he's gonna learn the neutral, and then he's gonna find the places where he can flowchart the opponent to death, and he's very good at learning those.
Right.
Leffen, I think, is a little bit different. I think obviously Leffen is like not as like flowcharty as Wizzy, but like he's definitely really good at like finding ways to like if you watch like his Pokemon Trainer Ditto set with Tweak, like you'll notice. I mean, obviously Tweak was not playing very sharp, but I think like Leffen understands the flow of the game really well, and he understands like when to take big risks, and he's gotten really really good at edge guarding as a result. And so you kind of see
Yeah.
this like in
Yeah.
his like he was like doing some crazy stuff off stage. I think that like um I think Leffen is just a really good fighting game player. Like he really understands the flow of like a fighting game match. Mewtwo King, I've seen less Mewtwo King in Ultimate. And Mewtwo King's the weirdest out of the people you named because he plays like heavies. Obviously in melee, like he does not play heavy. He plays like whatever like on his top tiers or whatever. And then Ultimate, he's like more of like what Bowser and Cineroar. And he's kind of been like soul searching a little bit. I think Mewtwo King's strength is that well, okay, I think the thing about Mewtwo King is like when he really decides he likes a character or like he really likes like how a character feels or whatever, then he'll just go in and learn everything about them and like he'll like kind of like he's like not afraid to like kind of experiment and kind of find ways to like, you know, just do interesting things with those characters. And I think that like he's having a lot of fun with heavies. So when I watch like his Bowser or whatever, um like I don't know that it's like as like feels as at home as like for example his Marth in Melee or like especially like his Meta Knight in Brawl, but yeah he definitely like he gets into this mode where he's like wait a minute I can beat anyone in the world, I'm like a really good player, and then like he just kind of like
Yeah.
flows. But if he's not playing a character that he really enjoys, then he doesn't get that. And I think that like the beginning of Smash 4 was kind of like that for him before he found Cloud, and he's kind of in that state right now. But I think once he like super settles in, I think he's going to start like rising.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, honestly. And one thing that I don't want to be awfully reductive here, but one thing that I'm kind
Mm,
of sensing is that melee players have this ability to just be really, really good nerds about the game and just grind out things and be able to find to just lock down these situations or lock down these important things that they need to win. And it's like when I draw back to that the thing about the Arduino and like
yeah,
the controller that allows you to like do human DI. It
right.
just kind of I just am thinking about that like this. I feel like this is a teachable moment. I feel like we
Mm,
can. This doesn't feel like something that's innate. It doesn't feel. I feel like there's no like nature here. I think this is a nurture argument. I think like how do we teach Smash Ultimate players to be like more nerdy about the game and to be more
yeah,
like grindy about things that really really matter.
yeah. It really does depend on the player. Because like okay, I mean, for example, if you look at like ESAM or like Void, for example, like they're really like mechanically gifted, right? I think that they're like very practiced and they're
Right.
like that. Like I mean, ESAM was one of the players that picked up Beto in Smash 4 as a control
Yeah, that's
scheme.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends. Okay, and it's also like we're kind of generalizing, right? Because we keep saying melee players this, melee players that. It's not really
Sure.
melee players specifically, right? Because like melee puff players aren't grindy. Melee well, Icy's players, it kind of depends on the like. Obviously, you have some really technical ones, and then but also you can just wobble or whatever, blah blah blah. So melee, like there are definitely characters in melee where you don't have to be very like hardcore labby or whatever. It's not like it's just the fact that we're talking about Wizzy, we're talking about Leffen, we're talking about Mewtwo King. First of all, these guys all play really technical play styles in melee. Plup, same way, right? Um,
Right.
I wouldn't call HBox like grindy in the same way. I mean, obviously he's doing something, but not in the same way. So it's like I think it's less melee players as a whole, and it's more the characters that they choose to play and their play styles. Okay, so with that being said, you look at Ultimate, which characters are really rewarding a lot of mechanical practice? Well, Pikachu is going to reward that. Joker to a certain extent, you want to have your drag downs on point and things like that. Like there's like techniques you could do with Pokemon. So it really depends on like what character they're playing, like someone or like Samsora, right? Like Samsora plays Peach, and like there's a bunch of crazy stuff. I've seen him do some like kind of really ridiculous combos. So it really depends on the character. Like there's nothing you can do to take like a K Rule main and make them care about like grinding, right? It's just like and there's
Sure.
more characters like that in Ultimate. There are more characters where you probably don't need to practice the game that hard and like it's more about just, knowing how to read your opponent, knowing how to play neutral, knowing how to like not get hit and play the percent game, and and that's just how it is. I think that's totally fine. Like there's characters, if you care about it, Pikachu's there for you, right? Like there's characters like that.
Right. Well, that's interesting how you. I don't know. Just in this conversation, I've thought about the idea of using melee and your experience with melee as sort of a way
Yeah.
to like foster the ability to, I don't know, in quotation marks, nerd out, and
Right.
then
Right.
perhaps being able to like then apply that back to Smash Ultimate. So with that in mind, Toph, as
Okay.
someone who has made the
Yeah.
venture from Melee into Smash Ultimate, how would you recommend that someone from Ultimate venture into Melee?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. 20XX, I would definitely get like 20XX and Uncle Punch. Like the software mods we have now for Melee are like pretty absurd. And like, okay, so if you're coming from Ultimate to Melee, like the nice thing about Melee that you immediately find is it's really easy to play for your win condition. And what I mean by that is like when you go to a game where, so you're going to melee, like what I would do first is I would like go into training mode or whatever, and I'd figure out like, and this doesn't really take that long. You want to figure out what like your goal of your character is. Like if you're Falco, you're probably trying to hit down or shine. If you're Fox, you're probably trying to like up throw up air or whatever, right? So it's like you like learn your combo that like lets you win games and just like practice that for a little bit, and it immediately starts to feel really good, and it builds this like positive feedback loop where you want to play more because hitting that combo feels really good. And
Yeah.
then kind of like when you go into real matches, just focus on hitting that. Like I feel like the best way to learn a new game is learn what your win condition is. Ultimate same way. Like when I was moving into Ultimate, like at first I was like, I don't get it. Like I just feel like I'm playing neutral over and over. But then I learned like, oh, like okay, this is what I'm actually looking for to take a stock. This is how I close a stock out. Um, so going into melee or going into ultimate, I feel like the first thing you want to do as a player is like figure out what your character, well, figure out what character you're playing based on what like what your aesthetic is and what kind of gameplay you like, what kind of top players you like to watch, and then figure out what that character's win condition is. And everyone probably already knows because like everyone, there's so many melee, there's so much footage. It's like really easy to tell what you probably should be doing. Like you're just like, oh yeah, okay, Marth seems to grab Fox a lot. Like maybe I should be doing that if I'm a Marth player, and then like figure out how people are hitting that win condition and then just try to hit that win condition over and over. And then like before you know it, don't even worry about like neutral or whatever at first. Like don't worry about, when I say don't worry about it, I mean like learn how to take stocks first because it feels better and it will like it will build that positive feedback loop where you'll want to play more in and you'll get better.
Yeah, one one last thing I want to like talk about in the subject of transitioning over. We characterized melee and ultimate as like as different games. It's like melee, you have this like freestyle, and then ultimate, you like it's you think about what you do in between combos. It's really
Right.
interesting. Like I see sometimes one of the biggest, like since I watch a ton of Zane, something that I noticed that he does is instead of like continuing like a chain grab on Fox, sometimes he'll just like end a combo randomly with a dare into the stage, and he'll just look for the tech chase after the dare. And it's cool that you kind of have this like you have this like this method where you can sometimes just completely forget about the freestyle and instead just go for the and just go for the read to switch people up. Is that just like
Right.
a is that just like a style thing, or is there kind of a method to the madness there?
Good question. It really does depend on person to person. I suspect that I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen him do that. Yeah, because like Mewtwo King would never do that. Mewtwo King would hit them off stage and he would set up for
Yeah.
an edge guard every time. And Zayn does that
Yep.
too, but like yeah, the thing is, like, sometimes you're just feeling it, and like you just kind of are like, okay, this is what I think is gonna work. Sometimes you kind of like sense that the opponent's not looking for a certain thing. There's a lot to keep track of, like even when you're getting comboed and juggled, because like you need to be ready to DI or tech at a moment's notice. So like he might just get the sense like if I go for this here, like they're not going to do a smart option, and I would have to look at the specific situation to know for
Sure,
sure,
sure.
but yeah, sometimes you just get a sense like, okay, I don't think they're looking for this right here, so I'm just going to go for this. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like I talked about how in Ultimate, a lot of the punish game has to do with maintaining your advantage between combos. Well, you can do that in Melee too. You can
Exactly. Yeah.
totally end your combo and then just like reset and then maintain advantage. Like, and if you've got
Right.
a read on your opponent or if you've got them shook, like it's pretty, and sometimes you can just kind of tell they're shook, then like you know what they're going to do anyway. So like foxes will do the same thing. Like you have your chain grab on FD, but like sometimes you just back out of them off stage at 80 or whatever because you're like, I'm pretty sure I know what the edge guard is going to be.
Right. Yeah. I just kind of wanted to break up the dichotomy a little because I was like, because I have seen a lot of things about like appreciating in like in between combo things in melee. So there's
Nah,
like, yeah, I feel like there is stuff like there's so much stuff to appreciate there. So it's which is really interesting. But
right.
Yeah,
yeah,
melee is
and then
deep. I mean, it's
yeah.
impossible to like it's impossible to like to reduce it to it. Like you can generalize so much, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's a really super deep game. That's why it's still like competitively so interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but Toph kind of taking like kind of pivoting
Hmm.
towards
I
melee.
love pivoting.
I look, man, that's why you're here. Uh, you've kind of been around for a long time in the melee scene, and I've kind of always
Yeah,
seen you or heard you more accurately as
yeah.
sort of a melee historian. Like you'll very often in the middle
Ah,
of a match, sort of I don't know, just tell a little 10-second story or just drop some anecdote that's like, wait, what? Like I specifically ever one time you mentioned like where the history of the gentleman came from, like in kind of
yeah.
Captain
I don't think a
Falcon's
lot of
1, 2, 3.
players know that. Yeah.
Would you actually mind just retelling that story? 'Cause I don't even really remember the story, and I think now that I brought it up, people will be mad at me if you don't elaborate.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, because I don't even remember where I said it. But yeah, no. So there was this Japanese smasher who I think still exists. His username is now Kane, like Kein, Kane. But it used to be Gentleman, and he was a Falcon player in Melee, and it was like one of the times Ken and Isaiah went to Japan, and that technique existed. They just called it like you just called it like rapid jab cancel or whatever back then. It didn't have a name, and like I think in Japan they call it like mock punch cancel because the official name of Falcon's uh, rapid jab in like the Nintendo guide or whatever was mock punch. So anyway, um,
I never knew that actually.
I think that's the case. So basically, Isaiah and this guy, gentleman, like got into this thing where they were like, okay, like I bet I can do this more consistently than you can, or whatever. And it's like, okay, first person to mess it up, then it's going to be named after the other person. So if gentleman messes it up, then it's the Isaiah, and if Isaiah messes it up, it's the gentleman. And Isaiah messed it up. He like they were doing it a bunch of times. And Isaiah like messed it up or whatever, and then Kay, who was like this other smasher who used to live in the U.S. Anyway, he was like, "It's the gentleman," and then it was known as the gentleman from then on. And this
I
must have been
love
in like '04 or something.
I love stuff like that. It's so funny
Yeah.
to think of like how many ridiculously like mundane things have shaped the world we now live in, like the sort of names that we so closely hold dear.
Yeah,
But
people
what?
even say gentleman in ultimate. Like cuz you
Yeah,
can do your
exactly. Yeah.
like Greninja Inkling can do like rapid jab or they can do gentleman and people say gentleman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Well, one thing that historians do, Tove, as long as we're going to define you as such,
Mm.
is kind of comment and appreciate eras that they construct. Like American historians might have like the antebellum era, the
Yeah.
Revolutionary era. In
Yeah.
Melee, that's kind of something that we do. You have kind of the
Yeah.
Ken era, the era of the five gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I ask you as the Melee historian,
Mm.
how are these moments defined? Like, can we do so in the present tense? Like, are we in an era right now? And if so, how would you categorize it?
Oh, interesting. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think the last era we got out of was probably like mm, hmm, good question. Yeah, okay. I feel like we're in an era right now where like the last era was like the Armada, like Armada still playing era, like Evo, blah blah blah, all that, right? And then like SmashCon 2018 or whatever when Armada stopped. And so we're kind of in this era now with Zayn, and then like Wizzy and Axe are really good. So I think what defines the modern, like the era we're in right now, is like Zayn for sure, right? Wizzy and Axe. In terms of like outside of the game, it's like Melee no longer being at Evo is like very pertinent. I think that like it's like we're kind of back to like more of a we had that like really explosive growth for a couple years, and it feels like it's kind of like stabilizing out where it's like a little slower burn now, which is fine. And it kind of like coincides with like Ultimate coming out. So I think like the hallmarks are like, yeah, definitely Zane, Wizzy Axe doing really, really well. And then even players like IBDW, and then like No More Evo and Ultimate. I think that's like kind of those are the hallmarks of like the era we're currently in. I don't have a name for it. I feel like we usually name our eras a little bit posthumously.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, speaking of that, like is as a historian, is it possible to actually kind of talk about eras when you're in them, or is it only possible to describe them ex post facto?
I see. Well, no, we can definitely talk about them to a certain degree while we're in them, like 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 Axe winning a major, Wizzy
Sure.
winning a major. That's
Yeah.
like those are definitely signs of the times that you can call as they happen.
Yeah. That makes
Yeah, yeah,
sense. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
There's
I
defining
think like
moments.
sorry. I think that perhaps
Uh,
like there needs to be like some sort of cataclysmic event and or like lack thereof, right, to really end a period. Like maybe
Right.
I don't know. There needs to be some sort of. It's all very ambiguous, but I like that. I think that's one thing about the melee scene that I do hold dearly is that when you describe it to people that don't really know the game, you can kind of tell it in like the sense that oh yeah, this is the era, this is happening. It makes it feel so much more I don't know,
Storied.
fantastical.
Yeah.
That yeah, there's a real
Yeah,
story to
yeah,
it all.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's one of the
Ties it all together.
right, and I think that's like, and I don't know. I think that that's worth more than we give it credit. Like maybe when Metagame, the next Melee documentary comes out, um, I perhaps that will mark like a second wave of Doc Kids or something. But I really do think that that whole era construct that we've created is one of the things that really because I'm a Doc Kid. Toph. When I first watched
Hmm.
the doc and I came in and I was like, oh, now there's five gods. What the hell's happening? It was
Yeah,
such an
yeah,
easy like there was one paragraph that summarized exactly what was important, and
yeah.
that
Right,
drew
right.
interest.
That really does help, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that really helps. I think that like, and it's funny because people like, I've definitely seen people like, people criticize me. One of the criticisms you don't see it as much anymore, but I used to see a lot was like, oh well, everyone, every melee tournament, the same people win, and it's like, well, yeah, but at the same time, that also just means that there's like enough skill stratification to where that can happen. And I think that's a lot more interesting than like, okay, I don't know. Look at what was it like the international this year where like, okay, OG won, but then like every other team played really bad and like the results were kind of. I don't really follow Dota that well, so I might be speaking out of turn here. But point being, I think it's more interesting when the same people are winning than
Right.
okay, the most interesting is when like there's like the same people are winning, but there's like variance in them, and then there's like an upset or two where someone new comes to the top. Those are like the
Yeah.
best types of top eights.
Yeah, it's
But
like
the worst
Arslan
top
Ash
eights,
winning, yeah, at
exactly.
like
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's awesome. But the worst type of top eights are where you don't recognize any of the names in them, and you're just like, who are these people? What is going on? What is this? It's like a clown fiesta. You don't want a clown fiesta.
No, no, you don't. And there's something so simple, like even I mean, just sharing melee with my girlfriend, with college roommates back in the day, and throwing like Evo 2016 on the TV on Twitch, and being like, "Hey,
Yeah,
this guy Armada has never lost to anyone not named these names." And
yeah,
suddenly
yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, holy shit! Let me watch. Maybe this will be the time that he loses." That kind of sense of history
yeah.
is so cool, and it's one thing that, like, look, man, Ultimate's my main competitive game. I love it.
Right,
I think it's a
right.
beautiful game, but it is harder to summarize. It's harder. There's no tagline. There's no,
It is harder to summarize.
and I think, and look, it's not something that you want to artificially construct. Melee has earned that privilege, and it's just something special at Melee, and you can't really just copy and paste it and put it on other esports. But I wonder, like, do you ever really see a scenario where there will be as much initial intrigue in Ultimate or other,
Mm.
successors in the series?
Yeah, I mean, if that narrative is going to be built, obviously the narrative has to be built over many, many years. Like, you can't fake that sort of thing. And I think if you're going to do it with like Ultimate and games like it, you probably have to do it. First of all, it's not my job to do it yet, or at least like I'm not good enough at Ultimate to like drive that conversation. But and that comes back to the whole credibility thing, right? Like, the people driving that narrative would have to be doing it, I think, from Smash 4. Like, you need to talk about
Right.
MKLeo's rise as a player from Smash 4, Tweak's rise as a player from Smash 4. I think that's like how that narrative probably gets built. And I do think there's more of it now than there was in Smash 4. I think there's definitely like you're starting to see way more consistency, I think, with Smash Ultimate results than with Smash 4, and I think that helps. Um, there's definitely more. The top Ultimate players now have way more star power than any of the top Smash 4 players did besides Zero and Nairo. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're actually starting to see when I say star power, I mean like okay, so obviously like when it comes down to players like Leffen draws more interest uh, Levin draws more views in Ultimate tournaments than top eights sometimes. Like the most watched set
Yeah.
at Genesis 6 while it was live was Levin versus Wadi, I think, or it might have been Levin
Oh,
versus MKLeo.
that was insane, by the way. That the
Right,
energy in that room
right.
was crazy.
Yeah.
And then SmashCon, same way, Leffen versus Salem. Okay, so Leffen has way more star power than, and that's to be expected. But I think that the star power of the top Ultimate players like MKLeo, um, Tweak, Nairo, some sort of players like that, I think it's starting to catch up. It's like definitely higher than it's ever been in Smash 4 with the exception of Zero. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, you have that. I mean, when I think back to narratives in Smash 4, it's like there is that like 56 tournament win streak and then that break at
That was big.
MLG. It's like, yeah, that
Zero's
I
win
feel like,
streak was,
yeah,
yeah, it was really big.
yeah. It's like when you look back at stories, that was the most compelling narrative by far. And it's interesting. I think we're still building up to that. Maybe MKLeo will amass some sort of streak himself. But kind of just kind of looping back over to Melee, we have seen this basically falling out of the Evo lineup and kind of being on a more gradual increase or path. Would you be okay if Melee kind of just stayed at the same viewership it is for the rest of its existence, or do you
Mm,
or is like or do you really want it to explode even more? And is there room for in the market for it to explode further?
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely room. Like people I mean, you mentioned like for example, metagame coming out might be an opportunity. I mean, I would be fine if it stayed roughly the same size. But I wouldn't want to it's kind of like tying back to what I said about the reads, like I wouldn't want to get complacent. I guess like if it's like it's one thing if it's the
Sure.
same size, but there's interesting things happening. It's another thing if it's the same
Yeah.
size and like no one's really doing anything fresh. Um I think there's always going to be opportunities to do more cool things and like uh I think that's when I mean, okay, even like dude, even the roast of Hugo Gonzalez and then we had the roast of Bobby Scar, even stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
new,
Yeah.
right? Like I
Yeah.
want to do more new stuff. It doesn't have to be explosive growth, but like I don't ever want to get stagnant. I think that like we have too much personality to I think it'd be a failure. I think the failure would be not necessarily lack of growth because like it's so hard to manipulate that, but we always got to be trying new things, like we always got to be doing new things.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of new things, crazy idea. This is my huge thing with Melee. What if we had customizable controls? What if we were able to play with tilt stick in
Whoa.
Melee?
Yeah, we
Like
could probably do it now, honestly.
because that's my huge barrier because I'm always like up smashing all the time because I just want to up tilt. I'm like
Yeah, I
it,
feel that, man.
it I
Yeah.
feel like there's some space for that now with like stuff like Project Slippy and like and all of like the new mods that are coming in and now the fact that UCF is kind of like a very accepted thing. I feel like we like Melee could go into that space where just like mods like that just maybe become the norm. Or do you see like where do you see the friction
Yeah, I don't
from
know,
that?
there's always going to be that voice that's like, okay, well, what about blah blah blah, like what about Nintendo? um
Sure.
Honestly, like I don't know, I'm not even that dialed into that conversation anymore. But yeah, it's that's usually the friction. The friction I think is when people say like, okay, yeah, we can free stadium, like we can do this and that, but like, is it going to be standardized? Is
Hmm.
there going to be like corporate involvement from Nintendo at some point that makes it so we can't do that sort of thing? Um, yeah, I guess there's a lot I could say on the subject, but it's I think it's that. I think it's standardization. Like we got UCF standardized. And that's a good sign because that means, okay, we could there's probably, potential for other sorts of things of that nature, but yeah,
Right.
remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Well, Toph, while we have you here to close out
Mm,
this interview, we've painted you as
mm.
the sort of melee historian, and I don't know. At least for me, I have a very like 13-year-old boy appreciation of history. I like
Yeah,
shows like Deadliest Warrior. We have these like dream matchups like samurais versus
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Western gunslingers. Like all these like hypothetical situations. So we're kind of gonna
Right.
make you answer some Deadliest Warrior esque hypothetical melee battle questions. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So just to start off, just to kind of get you in that realm per se, we
Hmm.
have 2019 Mango's Fox, right? Crew
Yeah.
battle style. He has 4 stocks versus 2009 Mango Puff, but the Puff has 8 stocks.
Are they actually? Is Mango actually like as good as like? Is it like literally Mango's skill level in 2009, or do you mean like Mango's skill level as a Puff player, but he kept playing Puff for 10 more years?
No, it's like literally like they're 10 years apart in age. Somehow we like got him
Okay.
here through a time machine. It's literally 2009 Mango's Puff.
Oh, well then, yeah, probably Mango's Fox. I don't think the stock difference is enough. Like people are so much better. Honestly, it wouldn't even take Mango. Like you could take, I don't know, like 2019 KJH would probably beat. Probably.
That's
I
the
don't know, man. People are way better now. People are way better now. Like even the only person that I think would it's literally it sounds like kind of a meme, but if it's not Mewtwo King's Marth on FD, like people weren't doing shit back then. If you watch 2009 videos, we were so bad.
all right.
Like we were way worse back then. And Fox Puff, dude, it's so easy to take. If it's not like if the Puff isn't really practiced and like Smash the Eye and stuff like that, it's so easy to take stocks from Puff.
True, I guess like there
And
really isn't smashed out of the up airs of that in 2009. Really, that wasn't consistent, huh? So
no,
Mango
no,
could fish for
no.
that.
Yeah, like Mango. If you watch Mango Puff matches from 2009, was he playing against any optimal foxes? I don't think so.
Mewtwo King, right? But
Even yeah, that's like the problem was like even Mewtwo King was like yeah, he was probably the best fox, but like I don't know, man. I think he played the matchup. I think he played the matchup so wrong up until HBox started playing. You know what I mean? It took HBox to push the other top players to learn how to fight Puff properly. And so if you fight 2009 Mango Puff like it's HBox, I don't think he gets any openings. I'm obviously I'm being reductionist here, but yeah, I think the stock differential would have to be more than that. Like people
okay,
are so much better now.
because yeah, like I'm sure I know that's a fact, right? But to
Yeah.
what end? What is that gap? I'll leave up to you. That's why
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad you're
think
here.
two X is not 3X might be a bit tough, and it also depends on how 2019 Mango Fox is playing. If he's
True.
playing sloppy,
Right.
obviously, Buff can take stocks really easily. But yeah,
Okay, Avi, you fire off the next one.
All right, cool. All right, so we have a doubles first to five with
okay.
iconic commentary duos. So we have Scar and you in your
Mm,
prime versus Prod
mm.
and D1.
Oh, me and Scar for free.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
would win
that's
so
right.
easily. Yeah, no disrespect to Prague and D1, but that's not really
Okay,
a
okay. I,
that's
I
not really
figured
a
that was going to
matchup.
be your answer. I figured that was going to be your answer. And I could see the argument for sure. But
Yeah.
what about this one? This one I really don't know. I don't know at all. So we got Waffles and Phil
Okay. That was good.
versus
They're good. They're good.
husband and wife.
In their primes?
But yeah, everybody's in their primes. We're saying.
It's Brandon and Phil for sure. Like Brandon and Phil were really good actually for the time. There's a really legendary set at Pat's house in 2011 or something. What year was that Pat's house? I think it was 2011. Hang on.
Look up.
Pat's house. Yeah, 2009 actually. Oh my god, it was 2009. Okay, well anyway, yeah, they like destroyed Lovage and Larry, Larry Lura actually.
Oh wow.
When Larry, yeah, they destroyed Larry, and Phil got like 6 rests in what Phil was playing Puff. He had a secondary
Yeah.
Puff. Um, Also, Brandon and Phil got like top whatever at like Genesis 2. They did. I don't know if they got top 8, but they did really well. Uh, Husband and wife were really good too, obviously. But I mean, the difference between 2007, like when husband actually no, they were good. Even they were. It was even before that, like 2006. Husband, like because you didn't really hear much about 2000 husband from 2007 onwards. Like, yeah, the difference
Yeah.
between 2006 gameplay and 2009 was immense. Like I think the difference in skill between 2006 and 2009 is bigger than the gap between 2009 and 2012.
Oh
Because
wow.
in 2006, people weren't like really like by 2009 we knew we should be ledge dashing. We knew about
Yeah.
um okay, 2006 people didn't do soft hits. People didn't do weak hits at all. Like for combos, like that wasn't a thing. Like people didn't really like ever. It never occurred to people like, what if I back air early so I get like a weaker hit so I can combo you? Like
Mm.
that wasn't a concept back then. If you watch videos, like people didn't really combo like that.
I like
Um,
this idea that like Obama comes into office, everybody's like, "Look, guys, weak hits during mid combo."
the biggest thing was like Mango in 2008 started doing where he would nair your shield and he'd drift back. So before 2008, the thing was if you hit someone's shield, everyone sucked at like tech skill. So like you mash shield grab and you get a free grab every time. And
Yeah.
like if you watch, and then Mango comes along and he nairs your shield and he drifts back, and I was like, whoa, that's new. And so like Mewtwo King's just whiffing shield grab every time. Like that was in, if you're from 2009, you go back in time to 2006, you just hit people's shields and drift back, and they just shield grab you every time. You just win every match.
Okay,
So
well, since both those answers are pretty easy for you, what about you and Scar versus Homemade Waffles and Phil?
homemade waffles and Phil. Uh,
Okay.
this is a closer match than either of those two matches, but like, dude, first of all, they were well, Brandon in particular was probably better at his peak. Well, Scar was really good at his peak too, obviously. But then, I mean, the difference maker here is that Brandon and Phil teamed in a lot of tournaments. Me and Bobby didn't
Sure.
really team that many tournaments. We teamed like once at like CEO, we teamed in like friendlies and stuff like that. But we didn't. We weren't really we never really like went to big tournaments and teamed. I think that definitely makes a big difference.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Well, I
Also,
have another.
Brandon is like a monster at teams in particular. He's a bit of a team specialist. So
Really?
yeah.
Hmm.
I could,
Uh,
what? Like, this is perhaps, I don't know Brandon personally. I've obviously listened to him on the mic a lot, but he
mhm.
very much has like a sort of, he just seems like a guy that'd be a hella good friend. I don't know. He just seems like a
Yep.
loyal dude.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Phil
and
too.
I feel like, there's like this characteristic that some people have where it's like, I want that guy on my team. Like, doesn't, whether it be
Oh
like,
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
football, basketball, Smash, like, get this guy on a team. He has my back. I feel like he kind of has
Yeah.
that aura about him,
Absolutely,
which
he does.
doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he's
Um,
great to team with. Agreed.
Well, I have another one for you. This one's, again, another pretty big gap in time, but I'm curious if this will change anything. So it's Mewtwo King today
Yeah.
versus Mewtwo King from 2007, right? Which is
Oh
before that.
wow.
But here's the thing, Mewtwo King
Yeah.
from 2007 gets an additional aerial jump.
Wow. Um. Oh, an additional aerial jump is a lot, man. It's like their Marth doing or whatever. The thing is, this is definitely the toughest one. Wow. Maybe Mewtwo came from 2007. Honestly, he was actually I mean, the nice thing is he was really good at the matchups he would need to win that. He was really good at the Marthetto, and he was really good. Obviously, that's a matchup that's kind of changed a lot, but at the same time, it's not a matchup that's changed as much as some other matchups because the
Right.
Marthetto like wasn't really a relevant matchup except for times when PP was playing Marth, and that was like less than a year span, really. And it wasn't really a relevant matchup then until Zane came along. So that matchup actually hasn't evolved that much in the last 10 years. You look at Fox Dittos, like there have been, how many Fox Dittos have been played in tournaments for the last 10 years? Like,
Yeah.
feels like hundreds, if not thousands. How many Marth
Yeah.
Dittos have been played? Not that many.
No.
It
So,
is really. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of feel like if you give him an extra mid or jump, especially because Marth is so gimpable, that like, that's actually just like game breaking. Like, your edge guard, and Mewtwo King would figure out immediately how to use that to invalidate the other Marth's recovery, right? It's like if you have two mid-air jumps, then the other Marth is dead every time they're off stage, and you're never dead when you're off stage.
Yeah, so you can just go down there and trade, and then you still have another
Exactly.
jump up. Yeah.
It's
And
like
you can, you can
it's
recover after
too
low
big.
downers too.
It's too
Yeah.
big of a yeah. It's too big of an
Yeah.
advantage.
I mean, the interesting part about the Marth thing is it's like whenever I play Marthdittos, I feel so lost, and I'm not sure why. And even though I watch a decent amount of the game, I'm like, why do I feel so lost in Marthdittos? And I realize I never see this match.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, yeah. Zane's pushing the envelope a lot. I think
Yeah.
he's pushing the envelope a lot. You could tell if you watch like the Big House Marthetto, Mewtwo King versus Zane.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
There's that, but like, yeah, like you said, it definitely hasn't been hasn't been pushed as much as the other matchups.
No,
But
no,
okay,
not to the same degree.
yeah. So okay, I got one for you. So there's Zero if he never stopped playing Melee competitively, and
Okay.
so yeah, so basically he's played Melee competitively all like, so he never went to Smash 4, he never went to
Yeah.
Brawl,
Yeah.
and versus current Armada, who's currently in retirement.
Oh, wait, current Armada? Like Armada didn't keep playing either?
Yeah, like Armada retired when he did in the actual
Yeah, okay, I
timeline.
hear it. Well, and then again, Armada's skill level hasn't actually gone down because like he actually
Right.
he plays melee on his stream. Like, okay, so it's basically Armada. It's just Armada day. I don't think Armada's skill level is like lower at all. I mean, maybe he's like slightly tournament rusty, but eh. Dude, I would say pretty even. I think Zero would have been top 5. At the rate he was going. Fun fact: I'm 1-0 against Zero in tournament. I think I caught him right before. He took me last hit. It was at ROM 7. We played in our second round of pools, and he took me to last stop.
Oh, let's
And
go. I actually never heard
yeah,
that.
yeah. And he got like kind of destroyed by We on X and bracket. And then like I don't know, 2 months or 3 months later was when he beat SFAT and Fiction at Evo. Now that being said, there is a bit of an asterisk on those Fox Daughters at Evo because that pool, that wave started at 9 a.m. and I remember they were very sloppy Fox Daughters. So
Oh,
even
okay.
that tournament, I didn't feel like Zero was actually like better than SFAT or Fiction. But he was clearly better than he was 2 or 3 months ago. His rate of improvement was really, really, really fast, which makes sense. And we now know, from his trajectory, that like he is just the kind of guy that like if he takes a game very seriously, he just gets ridiculously good.
Right.
And he knows how to practice, and he's got the work ethic. It feels like anything he sets his mind to do, he can do. He says he's going to lose weight. Like, you check back on a couple months later, he's down 80 pounds, right? He's
Yeah.
like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's pretty inspirational, honestly.
It's really cool. It's honestly really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. At this point, I feel like, yeah. So I don't know. That's pretty even. At the same time, I don't know. I mean, I feel like they would trade sets.
Okay. This is a weird one. This is
yeah.
a weird one. Okay. I'll admit this. I wrote this. Do I regret it? Perhaps, but we're still gonna ask it.
Let's
So
do
there's like this concept, right, where if you put like 1,000 or not 1,000, like an infinite amount of monkeys on a typewriter, one of them will be Shakespeare, right? You hear that thrown around a lot.
Right. Okay.
So in the same sense, if you have a crew battle of like, the 5 gods of melee, each with their 4 stocks, they got 20 stocks in total. How many monkeys will it take to beat them?
Wait, what? Okay, hang on. How many players are playing on the side of the humans?
It's just the 5 gods of melee, just the OG, Armada, PP, Mango,
And they have
M2K,
4 stocks apiece.
H-Box.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't even know. This is...
Dude, okay, physical fatigue would set in long before the monkeys put anything together, right? Like
Yeah.
the way the infinite monkeys on infinite typewriters works is that the theory there, right, is that like I don't know that it works that way. Because the thing is, like, with the fucking the theory is that if each of them is doing something different, then like, mathematically speaking, they have to produce Shakespeare works. I mean, in reality, that's not like the limitation there has to be that they can't do the same thing because then there's infinite permutation, whatever. Like, but with melee, like the difference is that like there's someone on, like if the typewriter could react to what the monkey was doing, like the it wouldn't work that way because like it's just like okay, they push a different button combination, but then like the Mewtwo King can just dash dance it. Like you can if it's the whole the allegory falls apart when you can react to what they're doing.
No, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah, it just wouldn't ever happen. Like they would, all of the gods would get hungry and have to go eat first.
That's a perfectly. I think that's actually the best. Yeah, I think that's a totally fair answer.
Yeah.
There's
no random sequence of. Yeah.
I mean, there's no like law of large numbers thing that you can apply there. Like, there's no there's no like monkey that'll come and just start throwing out like as and
If
S
they
smashes.
do, I see. If oh man, I don't think so. Because it's like they have to take stocks, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because percent's reset, so that's true.
So I just do this Asin monkey, just throw it out.
The Asin monkey. The Asin monkey might take a stock, but only the Asin monkey.
Okay, Abe, you got the last one?
Yeah. Okay. This one. This one's funny. All right.
Okay.
Peon had a lot of fun with these, so I have to give him credit for this. All right. We have Anne Hathaway versus the Dalai Lama.
Wow. Anne Hathaway versus the Dalai Lama. Man, that's a great question. Or like at their peak
Yeah, they're
or
At their
at
peak,
their
yeah.
prime. Have they
Yeah.
practiced at all?
uh,
Do they?
no, no.
No. Jeez. Wow, that's a great question. I'm gonna give it to Anne Hathaway, but it's close. I just
Okay.
I I
I
just
respect
feel
it.
like I just feel like you know man, but I feel like the Dalai Lama, like I feel like if you gave them some time to prepare, like I feel like the Dalai Lama probably just has like the best work ethic, maybe, and
Yeah, he
like
would
he
like
would just
look
like
within and just kind of meditate and figure
yeah
out. Like he would. Yeah.
yeah.
Although I do seem to remember a scene in the Princess Diaries when Anne Hathaway was in an arcade. Maybe that's a little fuzzy.
Oh well, I mean if that happened, then she
uh,
probably just
to,
has a little bit more context.
thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you spilling all the knowledge about your own transition and the melee and ultimate scenes as they are. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Thank you for having me.
Before you
Yeah.
sign off, where can people find you?
Yeah, follow me at on Twitter, Toph_BBQ. And just just watch the reads. It's youtube.com/the reads. It redirects you to the page.
All right,
Yeah,
buddy.
and
Thanks again.
and Patreon.com/the reads if you want to support us.
Oh, let's
Can't
go.
forget
If you want to
that.
see that Scar and Toph pudding show,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
but really, check them out, guys. Toph, thank you so much, man.
absolutely. Have a great afternoon, guys.
Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. AV, you and I just finished our conversation up with Toph, and that dude's so awesome. I mean, like we kind of hinted at before we got into the interview, he's just such a good dude to talk to. He just knows so much about the game, and he's also so opinionated and so passionate about the topics at hand. I love it, man. I love just hearing him rant on about Smash. I could listen to it all day.
Yeah, it's really fun. Honestly, I got a lot of perspective into like and reinforced a lot of perspective on why melee players are good at ultimate, what we can learn from them, what we can learn from the game, and why melee is really cool. And I love all of these opportunities to re-up my love for just Smash in general, and I think this did a really good job of that.
Yeah, dude, I'm right there with you. But we asked some questions to Toph, but now AV, it is time for our community to ask questions to us. If you want to ask AV and I some questions, you can do so very easily by joining the Discord server and going to the channel that is podcast dash questions. And this week we have 3 questions. AV Ultimate asks, what is a character currently considered top tier that we think are going to fall off the tier list soon?
I don't think that there's many top tiers that are going to fall off the tier list soon. I think maybe Wolf, but I think he's already begun the fall off. So I think it would be a bit retrospective to say that he would fall off. But I think Wolf's gonna.
Nah, dude.
I think Wolf's gonna fall off.
Wolf, there's no way. Wolf is so good. He's still being used. I mean, Tweak still pulls him out. Leo still has him on his roster. I don't know. I think he's just fine.
I mean,
but
it's my strong opinion. I don't know. Like, I mean,
sure, and I strongly disagree with your strong opinion.
Cool.
You have a problem with that?
So let me give context to my opinion. I mean, so the reason I think Wolf's gonna fall off is that he has a lot of really good tools, and I think his toolkit is great for players that are feeling on and are feeling good. Unfortunately, I think in terms of having Wolf as a secondary, I think he's a really good secondary, akin to maybe secondary in Cloud in Smash 4. As a solo main, I think he'll fall off. That's my context to that. I don't think I don't think you have to be playing like really. You have to, your brain and your like and your reads have to be like on like really really on point in my opinion at every if you're going to solo main him. And that's why I personally think that he'll fall off as a solo main, but will continue to always be a mainstay as a secondary.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a character that's like widely considered top tier that I just don't think is top tier or is going to like, see some dampening, in terms of like their placement. I don't know if I strongly feel that any of them are going to fall off entirely. I think certain characters are going to get worse as time goes on, like the Olimars of the world, the Robs of the world, characters that that are more, are less common rather. They do get away with a lot of like matchup and experience type stuff, and I think as that goes on, some of the less popular top tiers are going to be more familiar for everybody. So I think that there's that thing going on, but really I think that the the general conception, the game's been out for almost a year at this point. The patch cycles haven't really changed too much. I think that the top tiers that are there have pretty much earned their spot. I don't think there's like any hidden terrible top tiers.
Right. I mean, I was struggling to come up with an answer, but that was my best answer. It's like very light. It's like a very light fall off, even if Wolf does. So I'm with you there. I think maybe Game and Watch kind of falls in there. I think no one knows the Game and Watch matchup right now. So I think as people learn that
Well, I also don't
matchup,
think he's widely considered. I don't think he's widely considered top tier either, though.
right? But then but people are like placing him into the high tier. I've seen some people venture as far to consider him at the low end of top tier. I know that's probably premature, so I'm just addressing the fact that I think Game and Watch
Okay.
will fall off from whatever ivory tower he's currently sitting on.
Sure, I'm with you.
All right, cool. I'm gonna fire off the next question to you. So WL Jump, it's either WI Jump or WL Jump. It's a little ambiguous. Asks,
I hate lowercase L's like on most fonts. Like when I was in school, I was taught that the lowercase L has like a little loop-de on the bottom of it, and then on all font it's just a straight line. I was also taught that capital I's have like a little, a hat and like a pair of shoes. It has like a little, like there's two little horizontal lines on either side of the I. Why the hell are capital I's on computers just vertical lines? No one writes I's like that.
I don't know. I gotta keep you on your toes, which WL/WI Jump is doing to us right now with this question. He asks, or they ask, during several episodes, AV has talked about how he downloads someone's playstyle and how he got to the point where he could do it with people that he'd not played before in the first part of the match. Any tips for how to analyze people's playstyles and habits in game? And they do comment on the fact that the main two that they know is looking for ledge get-ups and recovery height. What else can you look for, and how can they punish it?
We'll just call them jump. I think that you're already after a great start in the sense that you're consolidating how you are adapting to somebody. So like, look at their ledge habits. Look at how they're recovering, right? And look at those things on an individual basis. But you can do so with even more things. Like, look, how are they getting out of advantage state? Are they landing with an attack? Are they double jumping the moment that you threaten an aerial? How about neutral? Are they approaching you a lot? If you just stand there, do they run towards you and try to hit you, or do they just hold their ground and say, "Come here"? Like a matador, like, "Hey, come this way, approach me," right? And look at these each individual components to somebody's play style, right? And what that usually takes is literally to kind of play the first couple stocks a little slower. Sit, watch, wait. Don't rush into the person. See what they do if you just stand there menacingly. But there's one extra layer to it, I think, where you can also kind of tell if somebody's scared, right? You can tell someone's playstyle. Are they just throwing out buttons, right? Whenever they get scared, are they a swinger, right? Not like in a sort of polygamous sense, but like in the sense that if they're in danger, do they throw out an F smash? Or when they're scared, do they air dodge away, right? Kind of pick up on those sort of things and realize, okay, this guy's scared. He's about to lose this game. I know he's going to throw an F smash. Like, kind of analyze those sort of macro habits in that sense too. AV, you got anything to add? I mean, he was citing, you specifically talked about your downloading. And I know you're a real downloader, AV.
The thing is that I have like a checklist that I go the way that I go through it, and I think I've talked about this before. I didn't want to kind of reiterate things that I've said before, but I have a checklist that I go through in terms of like if my brain allows it, like if my brain is comfortable in the sense that if they're not overwhelming me, I start to check off boxes. I start to add stuff to lists in terms of what are they repeating over and over again. And once I have enough of those boxes checked off, I start going for hard commitments on reads. The person that emulates this to the absolute perfection, and you'll actually can see his exact viewpoint on this, is Fatality. Fatality does exactly what I wish I did perfectly. if you listen to our interview with him, he talks about how he basically treats his mind like an algorithm, and when he like finds information, he inputs information into his head, and then he just sends the output. He doesn't even hesitate. He just sends it. It's just like, I'm just gonna fire off this thing based off of the information that I have. And that's what I try to do in order in order to get used to to adapting to players, is actually just getting in the habit of sending it. Which is,
Maybe that's actually a really good point. Is like, yeah, like there's two levels to the download or to the read. It's one, making the read, and then two, exercising that read.
exactly.
There comes a point, Jump and everybody else, that when it comes to your reads, you have to have confidence, and you either live and die by it, right? Like if you know someone's gonna jump, right, in your bones out of a combo, or maybe jump from ledge or do a high recovery. If you just know it, trust yourself enough to actually punish it, especially like in those really tense last stock, last hit situations. And I think you will see, you know, improved results on average, right? Because usually your reads are educated, right? You're not going to make just, and it's important to notice if you're making just stupid empty reads. But if you actually have a reason to believe that someone's going to do something, just trust it, man. Pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah, I think you covered that really well.
Well, our next one comes from Topher, perhaps a cousin of friend of the show, Toph. And Topher asks, what are your thoughts on custom controllers / the Smashbox in competitive play? I'm a controller modder and Smashbox player, and whenever the discussion of legality comes up, I always get a little nervous. I'm not going to be able to play my controller of choice because people view it as a cheater box. Should custom controllers and box controllers be legal, or should everyone have to play with stock controllers to level the playing field?
So there's a lot to go into. There's a lot to unpack here. Um, there's such a huge gray area about this because there are a bunch of different controllers. There's a bunch of different control schemes that that the game allows too. There's pro controller. There's masochists who play sideways Joy-Con. There's
Absolute lunatics, dude.
yeah,
Absolute crazy. I would not trust, like, if my daughter, my very lovely daughter, brought home a young man who seemed to hit all the right like green flags. He was looking good. He called my mom, my beautiful wife, like Madame or something. I was, oh, this kid's got some respect. And then he just whips out a sideways Joy-Con. I'm like, dude, get the hell away from my family. Get as far away from this house as possible. And I might just slash his tires a month later or something. Like, that's a serious. I'm questioning his judgment.
well, I won't. I'm not sure I'd go that far. I do agree that you're that it's a bit. You're kind of handicapping yourself if you're playing that. I think I've some of my hand problems have been permanently developed after using using sideways Joy-Con a few times. But
Yeah, my hands hurt due to karate chopping several sideways Joy-Con players. So I think we're both kind of getting hit.
Well, doing your service for the community. But other than that,
That's right.
I think that there's like so many differences between the controllers. There's people who there's people who put like analog buttons on like who replace their R and L triggers on the GameCube controller with like analog switches instead of digital switches. There's people who change the notches of their GameCube controller to get like shield drop angles and melee and stuff like that. And it's like there's so many different, like there's so much gray area around this that, like, I think that the Smashbox occupies a space that should all, in my opinion, is not like as like gray as the other areas. In my opinion, Smashbox should always be legal because I think it's not. I think it's a non-optimal play style, and I think it does help people who have hand issues. So because of the
Right.
idea in terms of it gets more people involved and it is like an accessibility thing, I think the Smashbox should always be legal insofar as it doesn't give you like a as it doesn't give you like like it just in input, like some sort of input advantage. And other than that, I actually think it should be legal. In terms of custom controllers, I have a lot of opinions on custom controllers. I personally don't like the fact that people mod their controllers, and I personally think that modding your controller is cheating and is giving you is giving that is just my opinion. People have different opinions on it. I don't think the Smashbox is cheating, but I think modding your controllers is cheating, and I think that you shouldn't. I get that like different sports have like different customizations on their equipment and stuff like that, but that at the end of the day, there's always standards. You can't just laser your golf balls. You can't like you can't you there's like certain materials.
It's a weird
you can't-
fine line though, because
yeah.
even out of the accepted controllers, like the Pro controller and the GameCube controller, like if you
Mhm.
look at the two, right, the GameCube controller has notches, right,
Yeah.
and so can you not? Are you saying you shouldn't let Pro controller users mod notches onto their Pro controller? Like, I don't know if I'm against
No,
that.
like
I
that.
think that's
Okay,
fine.
sure.
I think
Yeah, that's a gray area
I
though.
think that's.
Like,
But there's a lot that's in the gray area. I think like okay, we can agree that like
yeah.
putting like a kill confirm macro, like being able to like do an up throw up air macro on your controller, right, where automatically it buffers the jump at the right time for you in a specific timing every single time, and all you have to do is focus on the DI with your left
Well,
stick
I,
to follow their DI. That
hmm.
kind of a thing, I don't agree should be legal. But
Actually,
in
you know
terms of
what?
like
Yeah,
what?
I was just gonna
But
say.
like, but
Yeah,
I think you have to do a case by case. Sorry. I
yeah.
think you have to do a case by case basis, right? I really
Hmm.
don't think that you can make a sweeping like no mods at all or yes, do everything, right?
Right.
I think it has to be
Yeah.
a case by case basis. Enforcing that is the hard thing. But I mean, look, stuff like the Smashbox, right, where Hacks Money and other people claim that that those kind of box controllers help with their ergonomics of their hands. I'm no Dr. Kate McGee. I'm no physical therapist. I don't know um you know the ergonomics of controllers. I'm no expert on the subject, but if for whatever reason, if there is a well cited medical reason to use a different controller, like hell yeah, of course let them use a different controller. And especially like when you account for people with disabilities, one-handed gamers, people with partial paralysis or full paralysis, I think that like leaving that door open for those sort of people is extremely important, so I think that it's really a case by case basis sort of situation. And I think that it depends on the mod for me in terms of what my opinion is on it.
I that makes sense. I think that's fair, but it's hard to create a rule set. Like it's hard to start enforcing even if you do have like a case by case thing. But I think overall, I think I'm gonna go back on my thing about accepting the fact that like control like putting like the octagonal notches on pro controllers is okay. I actually don't think I'm gonna say that like even that's like even that's like the pro controller gives you advantages that the GameCube controller doesn't have. You have
Like what?
it just it gives you the it gives you an extra trigger button. Like it's like
Yeah, but like you
there's
don't
techniques
like,
you can perform with that you can perform with the pro controller that you can't perform
but the GameCube
without
controller has enough digital inputs to like the Smash doesn't have that many buttons. You need a special button, a jump button, an attack button, a shield button, a grab button, and like a left stick. You could put all that on the digital buttons. You don't even need to use L or R to play digital only inputs on a GameCube controller. So it's like I really don't empathize with that very much. Like if you just learn to use shield on X or to it's like it's the same thing.
well I mean sure you can just learn to play non-standard configurations, but in terms of standard configurations, which is most people's approach to the game, that's I think I. In any case, I think what we've uncovered here is that this is a very complicated topic. This is
Right.
there are so many opinions on this. I don't personally think that my opinions are right. I don't think peons are right either.
Yeah.
I, but
Well, the thing is there like Topher there's a lot under that umbrella of modded / custom controllers / box controllers in competitive play. There's so like we could talk literally for 10 hours about
yeah,
the subject, like, and there's so many different little things. I'm generally pro mod, pro Smash box until the mod gives you something that you cannot do without. Like if it automates a process for you, that bothers me. Other than that, I'm generally okay with all mods.
right. I'm I think that I'm generally anti mod pro Smashbox, but I think that since Topher is a modder and is a listener to the show, I will fully support Topher's modding business. So
Yeah, Topher, I'd actually be interested in hearing what mod specifically you do, and because I don't know a ton about. I have a couple of friends that mod controllers more aesthetically, and maybe we'll do stuff like analog switches and to digital switches, like they do like minor. Well, who knows? I have no idea if
that's
even
major,
categorizes
dude.
as minor.
It's huge.
Well, it's major in terms of the implications of what that allows, but
Yeah,
it's minor
yeah.
potentially in terms of like the actual installation, right?
Right.
That's all I meant. But
Mhm.
either way, it's a complex subject. I hope that we at least, answered it in a way that was satisfying enough for you, Topher. But AV, I think that kind of wraps up our conversation today. It was a lot of fun talking to you, buddy. It was a lot of fun having Toph on. Where can people find you, my friend?
People can find me on Twitter at Abhi Vaidyanatha. That's A plus my long Indian last name. And the thing is that that's kind of a hard thing to spell. So you can go over to the Beyond Metagame Twitter, which.
Yeah, you can, AV, which you can find at Beyond Metagame. That is goddamn correct. Your ears are not mistaking you, AV. At Beyond Metagame, the show that you're currently listening to is called Beyond the Metagame, but Twitter does not give a damn, AV. No. And you can find me at Peon_BTM. That's right, Peon_BTM. That's Bravo, Tango, Mike, for all of you militia. AV, it's been a pleasure as always. You look good today, on a side note. But as for the viewers, listeners, as always, thank you for listening. Goodbye. This episode was made in part due to the support of our patrons: BK Otter, Ferris, Deem Guide, Minlo, Zunon, Hydra, Big Tip, Danderson, Weasel, Honk Lava, Makatoon, Pandora, Plunder, Praxis, Puso, Robiert, and Ultimate.